In this video, I'll be looking at some of the good habits I've acquired over the 2 years that I've been riding. Please note that none of the scenarios in this video were choreographed. All the actions that I take are what have become second nature for me, and the footage used was never intended to be used in a YouTube video. So I ask, are these good habits? Do you approach these scenarios in the same way that I do? Let me know down in the comments. Let's get started here. As I approach this right-hand soft 90, let's talk about the legend. White arrows will indicate where I like to position myself on the street for each scenario. Red X's mark things that obstruct my view, as well as potential hazards. Straight red lines are my line of sight, and yellow lines are my intended path of travel. In this scenario, I like to position myself in the center of the road. This increases my line of sight around the fence, so I can see if anybody's coming from the other direction. As I round the corner, I like to cut into the right. This softens the curve even more and decreases my lean angle. And as I continue on this seemingly benign straightaway, I keep my guard up as the potential hazards are numerous. I stay on alert looking for children, pets, car doors opening, and cars pulling away from the curb. And of course, the center of the road is the best vantage point to spot these potential hazards. And now, as I approach this soft left-hand turn, I like to position myself off to the right. However, my line of sight is still a bit sketchy. I have a driveway to my right, which is clear, but there's this car parked on the right side of the road that I'm turning onto. So I'm going to stay right until I'm confident that there's no oncoming traffic. If there was a car coming, I'd like to be in a good position to thread the needle between the parked car and the moving car. And now we're going to exit the neighborhood. There's a lot to unpack here at this particular intersection, so I need to add some things to the legend. First of all, green arrows will indicate pedestrian crossings. I'm also adding orange lines to indicate the path of other vehicles in a worst-case scenario. And finally, I'll be using red arrows to point out distant hazards. In this scenario, the red X represents the spot that I want to stay as far away from as possible. And the orange lines represent exactly why. I refer to them as the swoop lines, and we'll talk more about that in a moment. But for now, note that the white arrow is where I want to position my motorcycle for this left-hand turn. Positioned here, I have a pretty good view of traffic coming from the right side. However, being I'm so far to the right, it is vital that I have my left blinker on. This is to avoid any confusion for cars waiting behind me, which as you can see in the mirror is the case here. My line of sight to the left is pretty good too. I can see oncoming traffic pretty far off in the distance, but I do have a crosswalk and an intersection in my path to consider. And finally, here's the perfect example of what I was talking about regarding swoop lines. When a vehicle coming from the right side is not threatened by oncoming traffic, or maybe they're trying to beat oncoming traffic, they tend to swoop, as I call it, through the intersection. And often enough, people coming from the left side tend to take the corner too fast and swoop wide. However, when forced to slow down or even stop, vehicles approaching from the right are forced into making more of a 90-degree turn, which there is an upcoming example of. In this scenario, I find myself facing oncoming traffic. My intention is to make a left into the convenience store. In the distance, I see a truck with its left blinker on. But because blinkers have lied to me before, I'm going to focus on the front wheels. As soon as they turn to the left, I know that this truck is committed to the left-hand turn. Therefore, I can now commit to my left-hand turn. In this final scenario, I'll be making another left-hand turn. And as I approach this intersection, you can see that my line of sight is wide open. Of course, as usual, I'll be positioning myself off to the right, but I'll also be hanging back from the crosswalk line. This is to provide plenty of space for the pickup camper combination to negotiate their left-hand turn. In this case, this might seem like overkill, but it's my rule of thumb when faced with longer wheelbases. You can see here my proximity to the crosswalk line and the fog line. And of course my blinker is on to avoid that confusion. As indicated by the red line, I'm in a good position for the worst case scenario swoop. But as promised, this will prove to be a good example of someone who's been forced into more of a 90-degree turn by oncoming traffic. Well, that's all for now. Please share your thoughts, advice, and criticisms in the comments below. Also, please hit the thumbs up button and subscribe if you're so inclined. Until next time, this is the Moto Noob signing off.